Evening, everybody. This is Dr. Hack. We're going to do a quick overview of Petrov's defense today. And this is something that we looked at, 10, 12 months ago when we looked at the Ruy Lopez. And I think I said something like, hey, if you were a wise guy, maybe you could just counterattack the pawn. So when he takes yours, you could take his kind of thing. And I left it there for 10 or 11 months. And nobody left a comment saying, Dr. Hack, fill this in, please. This is a big gap in my knowledge base. I need help. Nobody said that. That's okay. It's all right. We'll fix it today. Because this is going to happen if you're playing the Ruy Lopez type stuff. This is going to happen 12% of the time for your entire chess career. This is a big one, right? And I know that because if you look at the Masters database, 12% of the time it happens. And if you look at the Amateurs database, 12% of the time, it happens. And if you look at the Dr. Hack database, well, we're going to pretend like that didn't happen. That's not 12. Right. So, why is it that there's so many draws here? Why is it that a master looks at this opening and their shoulders kind of slink down a little bit, their eyes gloss over, and they think this opening smells like the color taupe. Like why do they paint the walls that color? Taupe, like bland and boring. That's what they see, when this opening comes out because of all the draws. When an amateur looks at it, there's no draws in amateur chess. What are we even playing at, right? This one's got a candy coating to us and it tastes oh so good because it's so much fun. And then later on, you realize you're eating tofu, and that's a surprise. It's a big surprise to anybody. Doesn't matter who you are. Let's get into why, I think this is happening. Let's try to understand my opinion of it, and then we'll try to prove it. My opinion of it is, and let me play through the main line of this while I'm saying this, right? My opinion of this is that the reason why you get a lot of draws is because the pawns go into symmetry. And you can see it happening here, right? We'll stop on this position because we're going to come back and use this one later. But these pawns are in symmetry, meaning there's 3 across from 3, and there's 4 across from 4, right? Nobody's got an extra pawn in any place. The only ones that are missing are across from each other. And that means that if I were to take all the pieces off the board, which I shall do at this moment, anybody who changes the pawn structure in a symmetrical structure will take a disadvantage in the new one. For example, if we were to play this pawn up with white, and these two were to trade, what does that leave? It leaves an isolated pawn in the center of the board, which is an endgame weakness, right? No pawns to help it, lots of things that can attack it. And it would be the same if it was black doing that. If black were to play the pawn up and white were to trade this way, black would be the one with the isolated pawn left. It doesn't matter who changes the pawn structure. The person who changes it, who makes a pawn break, which is the thing that we dream about as amateurs. We like to use our pawns to ram them down the board and crash into things, right? The one who makes the pawn break is the one who takes a disadvantage in the new structure, and that's unfortunate. That means that when we look at a position like this, the person who gets ahead, who wins, is the one who can use their pieces better around the structure. You leave the trees where they be, and you play in the forest without running into them with your forehead, because that would hurt. So we go back and we go back to the beginning for a second here. All right. Well, first of all, hang on. Before I do that, memorize this. Can you do that for me? You got a bishop out. You got a knight out. Okay. You got pawns here and here, and he's got a knight that made it down to the middle of the board, and that's all you got to remember. Remember all the stuff in these 9 squares. Okay. All right. Good. So I'm going to play this now a slightly different way to get us started. But Petrov's defense always starts like this. You'll always see this first, and you'll know, oh, okay, this is Petrov's thing. Right. So instead of taking the pawn with white, I'm going to recommend that we don't. I'm going to recommend that we play this move. Because now, if you're an amateur, and we flip the board, you have choice fatigue. You could take this one, or you could take that one. And that means your head shalleth explodeth. Right? Not really. But, yeah, giving them 2 choices and knowing that one of those choices is actually bad for him and actually more fun for you, I think that's a 50-50 I'm willing to accept. Now, technically with Masters chess, neither of these are better or worse than the other. But if they do that one, we have all the fun. And so let's give them the choice, you know. And if they don't do that one, let's say they take this one. And then let's just follow the first move in the database for a minute here. We attack the knight because it's not defended by anything, and they defend it with a pawn. And then we take this one. Does that look familiar? Remember that position I had you memorize, like, you know, a minute ago? This one right over here. This is black's turn to move in the position that we memorized a minute ago. This is the position we have now with black's turn to move. This is the same exact position, except white has managed to make one extra turn than his opponent. You get an extra turn. That can't be bad, right? So if this is the best they can do, no, it's not the best they can do. Maybe they can play some very sneaky things. This is sneakalicious. Watch this. They play the knight out, and they're like, "Hey, you can have my knight." They're like, "No, let's do this right." "Oh no, my knight." You know, yeah, that's happening. Okay, and so we take it, and then the pawn's in. And we're like, oh, shoot. We see what's happening. The bishop can't go anywhere. And when he comes back, we get forked. And now we're all sad, right? Until we realize that, look, symmetry, is the same exact thing all over again. Great Scott. No wonder there's so many draws in this opening. Okay, so they could be all sneakalicious on you, or they could just defend the knight and we get the extra turn. Either way, I am pretty sure that them taking this pawn isn't so bad. And we're going to come back to this because I believe this position here, I'm going to keep doing this again and again, aren't I? I believe this position here is worth knowing. This is a tabaya. And if you don't know what a tabaya is, I suppose I should tell you. This is like old school, older than me, old school, like Persian chess, shatranj, like that old school. Right? These guys had different pieces, of course. They had like elephants and chariots and whatnot. But the important thing was the rules that they were playing with were weird. Right? You have a guy sitting on the white side of the board and a guy sitting on the black side of the board. But they don't start the game like this. They start the game by putting their pieces in random spots into a battle array, which is what tabaya means. So they'd be sitting there simultaneously putting pawns, like maybe I'll put a pawn on all the black squares. That's my battle array. Whoops. And then I'm going to put my other pieces into those little gaps, because that's the way I want to start my army off. And they'd both be doing this, and then they'd start the game from a different position on both sides of the board. They don't start in symmetry like we do now. So when I say tabaya, I just mean this is a position. Where are we here? This is a position that you may see over and over and over again, because this is a favorite place to start the game from on move 5 of a lot of players. This is a tabaya. So we need to study this position and figure out what to do next from here. But we're not going to do that right now. Okay, we're going to come back. Because we need to know what happens if they take that one. Okay. And before I do that, I need to show you something in the database that I found. I thought this was very clever. Look at this guy right here. We know who that is, I think. Mr. Carlson in 2021 had a win. That's not so weird, right? Until you scroll down a little bit and you look for his name again. And you go, Mr. Carlson in 2010 had a win. Okay, let's keep scrolling down until we find his name again. Mr. Carlson in 2019 had a win. How's come all the other chess masters get all the draws and Mr. Carlson does not? Right? And then you start to realize that it's because, it's my opinion again, because we have this symmetrical game, and Magnus Carlsen is so good with the positioning of his pieces and the way that they work together, right? The piece coordination. He's so good at using his minor pieces and his major pieces to make an attack that he can overwhelm even the best masters, even though the position is symmetrical and somewhat drawish, right, by nature. And I think that's fun because any version of this you put in, you're pretty much getting that same result from him. He gets all the wins. It's crazy. Anyway, let's look at this one. So this is supposedly better for white, okay, because there is not symmetry here yet. We have to get the pawn back, but if we just take it now, right, we're going to lose this one. Or if we take it with the queen, we're going to lose a tempo on the queen. We don't want either of those things really, right? So we play this first. We get a turn. The knight has to move. He's got to do something. Okay, we could check all the squares the knight can move to. I think you check them off one at a time and you realize they're kind of all bad except for that one, right? You could put him out here, but then, oh no, right? Knight can't move there or there or there or there. He's trapped. So this is winning a whole knight. That's pretty good. We'll take a whole knight in the opening anytime. He could play it down here, but then we kind of realized that we could chase him again. And in the only square he can go to now, he's only got one. It's back here. And we could rip that off the board, make a whole mess out of black's pawns over here, and still get our pawn back, and still be ahead 2 pieces in the game to 1, even though we're going to lose a turn right now. Right? Right. So and I'll flip it on the computer for you. White's ahead, right? This is what we want in the opening because these pawns are so bad they're targets later. So that knight shouldn't go there. Of course not. That's foolish. What about back home? Oh dear, right? Here we are again, and he's got a piece that was developed and now undeveloped, and we've got 2 in the game versus his 0, and our bishops can get in the game really quick, and he's got to move a pawn before his bishop can enter the game. I think white's ahead again, right? And so we could flip on the computer just to verify, oh yeah, white's definitely got some advantage in the time factors, 2 moves ahead, it says, which is about what we decided too, because this extra move happens when one of those goes forward. Okay, and then the last thing maybe he could do is put the knight where it should go, and that means that when we take the pawn, we get another turn. Haha. And then he should do something to save his knight, right? And now if they do it this way, now we're going into symmetry again. And this is where we get to have a piece battle, a battle of the minor pieces and major pieces. And the guy who uses them better, who aims them at the other guy's king better, is going to be the victor. And it turns out that we've got 2 extra turns in a piece play situation. I'll take that all day, guys. As long as we know one little thing. When they attack your queen, where does it go? Right? It sits on f4 because that's the square where nothing can attack it ever again. And the way that you could verify that this was true is you could try placing it on all different places on the board. You could try placing it over here and you get something aimed at it. You can't put it on any of these because of the knights, right? Can't put it on these. Can't put it there, right? Can't really put it there because the bishop, right? So we're going all the way over here and trading queens. No, thank you. And so that leaves what? Here and here. You're choosing between those 2 squares with the queen or going backwards and undeveloping. And we already said this one could be aimed at with a bishop, so we're not happy with it. So this is really the only square you've got if your queen is going to stay in the game and fight. If she's going to retreat, fine, she's going to retreat. I don't recommend it. I think she's doing great here because look at all the pieces that can come and attack her. There's exactly none, right? So as long as you know that, as long as you know where the queen belongs, and I feel like you guys could work that out. It would take you a few games maybe. Maybe you'd get it the first try, I don't know. But that's really her best place. And now we're looking at pieces coming in and trying to aim everything we've got at the king side. Maybe we even play a pawn up. I don't know. You guys choose your plan. And you guys do what you do. I really hope this was a good overview. I really hope this helps you to really take apart this opening the next time it comes up and to play some good stuff. You guys have a good one. Take care now. Bye.